Hey everybody, welcome to round 11 here at Grand Prix Washington, D.C. Maria Bartholdi in the booth, joined by Jacob Van Lunen. And we may have one or two famous names in our feature match area this round. We're going to kick things off in Table C. Jeremy Dasani versus Corey Burkhart, who is teaming with Shuhei Nakamura, and Martin Yuza, currently ranked number 8 in our top 25 player rankings. Dasani's team, Raf Levy and Tomohiro Saito. So two powerhouse teams yet again. Head-to-head here as Shivan Fire deals with a Naban Dean of Iteration. To start things off in this game, Corey Burkhart, Rakdos mana, just passes the turn back with 3 available over to Dasani, who's on red and blue. And we're going to get in there with our Phoenix. Ah! Knock Burkhart down to 18.
Phoenix is a card that has ranged from very good to very bad in my experience.
Yeah, I haven't loved it in this draft form, or limited format, I should say.
I feel like sometimes games really come down to who's winning in the air, and that extra text on there isn't really that important. But there are definitely post-sideboarded games where I'm just interested in a 2/2 haste flyer that costs 4 mana.
Rampaging Cyclops down on the table there for Corey Burkhart, which we've seen in the feature match area quite a lot this weekend. Far more than I expected, although it's a solid card, like you said, a 4/4 for 4. Fire Intervention, though, is going to take it down here from Jeremy Dasani. Warcry Phoenix gets in for another 2. Burkhart will fall down to 16. But that Phoenix is going to go down. The Eldest Reborn, Chapter 1.
Yeah, and this is just one of the most powerful uncommons in the set. There are a few cards that aren't rares that you might want to take over it. Maybe something like In Bolus's Clutches or Song of Freyalise, but the Eldest Reborn, come on. Just a clean 3-for-1 over the course of 3 turns.
Cloud Reader Sphinx here. And another excellent card. We're going to get to Scry 2 for Dasani. Simon Gertson said it was his favorite common yesterday in chat. 3/4 flyer in the air too, not too shabby.
Yeah, it's a great card at getting you into that mid to late game. It sets up your draws. It makes sure you can hit the 6th land if you have a lot of stuff you can do at 6 mana, or it just makes sure you can keep the gas flowing if you already have the lands in your hand.
All right, so it looks like we're going to scry 2 to the bottom for Dasani. Chapter 2, after Burkhart's draw step here, will cause a discard. An island hits the bin for Jeremy. Skittering Surveyor here for Corey. Finds a mountain.
Everyone's favorite card in this set, right? Skittering Surveyor?
Absolutely. No bully. That's the cool way the kids are saying no hyperbole, by the way.
Oh.
And my cool was in quotation marks, just in case you couldn't tell. But I love that card, obviously. I first picked him in a draft, believe it or not. It was a very weak pack, but Cloud Reader Sphinx gets in for 3. Burkhart will fall down to 13. Get to Lava Runner here. The follow-up for Dasani.
Now, Corey's deck is very exciting. He has multiple copies of Demon Lord Belzenek.
What? Multiple copies? All right, Chapter 3 here on the Eldest Reborn. We're going to find out what Corey Burkhart wants to get. Naban, Dean of Iteration, is the choice.
Whoa.
It's interesting.
Very much so.
Oh, I see why. Look at this. Jaya's Immolating Inferno here to take out both of Jeremy Dasani's creatures and ding him for damage. Skittering Surveyor tries to get in for 1, but Nahu, oh my gosh, I can never say this name, Naru Meha flashes in and blocks. That's the second flashed in Naru Meha we've seen today. Surprising people kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, we watched Jeremy Dasani have what we can only describe as the perfect wizard draw earlier in the day, and it again involved Naru Meha producing card advantage while also then producing just an incredible amount of power and toughness for its cost.
That was a sick play. It would be interesting if Corey had no legends in hand and was like, what am I going to do? Oh, I'll take Dean, and then I'll be able to use my Inferno. Awesome stuff there. Joyrus Familiar coming down 2/2 Artifact Flyer, discounting your historic spells, and a Knight of Malice for Burkhart. Cute little owl.
Yeah, it's a card that oftentimes lets you ramp into a lot of the really powerful 6 drops in this format. There are quite a few things that it reduces the cost of at 6 that are just great when they come down a turn early. I think even something like a Pardic Wanderer becomes a very reasonable playable when you have multiple copies of that in your deck.
Another get-to Journey Mage here for Dasani. Will deal 2 to Burkhart, whose life total is already getting dangerously low.
And Jeremy's deck very good at just dealing incidental damage after an early aggressive start, and very good at finishing the opponent off with both evasion and things like those wizards there.
Joy Rose Familiar able to peck in for 2 damage here. Burkhart down to 6, Jeremy Dasani down to 13, following things up with a Deathbloom Thallid. Solid 3-2. Valued pretty highly by players here. It's just that critical nice 3-drop for any decks playing black.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but this is a card that looks on the surface like it might just be a powerful green-black card, but it's just powerful enough with its stats and its ability that basically anybody who can cast it somewhat reliably wants to have it in their deck and will be taking it highly in a draft or wanting to include it in their seal deck build.
Dasani's team currently 9-1 here in round 11. Burkhart's 8-1-1, so they do have a draw. Wizards Lightning here taking down Naru Meha. But I'm going to go back to something you said a minute or so ago. He has multiple Demon Lord Bells and Locks in his list.
Yes, Corey has 2 copies of Demon Lord Belzenok.
Oh, wow.
I would really like him to flip another Demon Lord Belzenok so that he can...
Yes. Yes. Okay, so here we go. An attack from Burkhart, Familiar, Thallid, and Naban, all hitting the red zone. 2 Journey Mazes back to potentially try and trade here for Dasani.
It's a good attack from Corey Burkhart. Corey Burkhart recognizes Jeremy Dasani's life total is, less than 14 or less, so he's attacking with 7 points of power. This kind of signals to Jeremy, if Jeremy doesn't have a way to remove that Knight of Malice to crack back for victory, assuming Corey doesn't have anything else, that he's kind of going to want to block on this turn as opposed to next turn. So Corey knows all of this, Jeremy knows all of this. All of those are going to factor into their decision here.
Icy Manipulator, that's a good one for Burkhart.
And the thing that's really powerful about Icy Manipulator in this particular situation is the fact that Corey can use this to remove one of Jeremy's attackers while also removing one of the blockers on the following turn. So he's essentially going to tap down 2 potential blockers. And when an opponent who's at 6, when you have 4 bodies that have at least 2 power, it means that Jeremy's going to have to get 2 of those things off of the table or present 2 additional blockers in order to survive the following turn.
Check it out up on table A. Martin Yuza up a game over Tomohiro Saito. Fight with fire here. Takes down the Knight of Malice. Icy Manipulator locks down 1 Journey Mage, 1 able to get in, knocking Burkhart's life in half down to 3. No follow-up play, though, from Dasani, who is at 6.
Hey, Corey, I believe he's just going to go for victory here.
All right, everybody's swinging in. And Dasani is packing him up. Corey Burkhart taking that first game over Jeremy Dasani. So 2 wins already on the right side of your screen there for Yuza, Nakamura, and Burkhart. No result yet from Levi Nakamura. But if Shuhei manages to... Oh, there we go. I spoke too soon. Win, win, win for Yuza, Nakamura, and Burkhart. And that's got to feel great in a team tournament, starting out with everybody on your team having a win.
Yeah, just 2 games away from taking the entire match, whereas your opponent's going to have to win at least 4. So, very good position to be in. And Corey able to win that game there without drawing either copy of Demon Lord Belzenok.
This is the first red-black deck I've seen, actually, I think, so far on camera when we've been in the booth.
His deck seems like it's very well poised to draw first against most opponents. I think Jeremy Dasani is one of the few opponents that he would not want to do that against. And the reason being is because Jeremy Dasani is playing an aggressive red-blue deck, and this deck has a lot of tempo cards, like Academy Journey Mage, Time of Ice, things like that you would expect to be in the deck. And those cards punish you for getting behind on the board, for being behind on tempo. So even though Corey has a lot of cards that are very good at gumming up the ground and slowing the game down in the early game, those cards will not be as strong against an aggressive deck that's designed the way that Dasani's is.
Okay, so you can see on the left side of your screen down there in the feature match area, that is the Peach Garden Oath, who started today with 1 loss. We will be seeing them in our time walk match after our main match finishes up. I'm not entirely sure what their record is, but I'm sure it's probably still X1, if I had to make a guess at it at this point in our feature match area.
Yeah, I believe they lost either
Their
the first or second
round.
round.
Yeah. So they fought back on day 1, but that's why we didn't really see them in the feature match area yesterday, was because losing round 1 is pretty debilitating, not very good for your tiebreakers further down in the tournament.
It also is a great showing of poise for a team like that can come back from losing the very first round and be sitting here at the top of the standings. I think that a lot of players would find themselves losing the first round of a big tournament like this and think to themselves, there's another 14 rounds before we get to elimination brackets. What are we going to do? How are we possibly going to do this? We've started off so badly. But when you're amongst the absolute best in the world, you're able to just turn that off and continue playing your best game.
Well, we know they have good luck today because Reed Duke, as Huey tweeted earlier this morning, rescued a trapped bird on the way into the venue, so they've got karma on their side.
I'd like to know more details about this trapped bird.
Yeah, where was it trapped?
What kind of bird was it?
Did he have to climb a tree and save it like a cat and a firefighter? Did he have to go into a storm drain? Was it perhaps in a hot car and he released it into the wild? Who knows? Our very own superhero, Reed Duke. All right, let's check back in here for game number 2 between Jeremy Dasani and Corey Burkhart. Fungal Infection making short work of Naban, Dean of Iteration here right away and garnering Burkhart a Saproling token.
Fungal Infection is a card that I've been very impressed with.
Oh, this is interesting. Merfolk Trickster here flashed in, tried to block the Saproling Shivan Fire, however. It's something to say about that, and took down the Merfolk Trickster. Saproling survives.
Corey playing a slower, more controlling deck in this matchup. Going to need to try to be a little more aggressive in this game. Wants to put Jeremy on the back foot because he's missing these land drops here.
Knight of Malice here for Burkhart. Cloud Reader Sphinx for Dasani. Yeah, Burkhart just stuck on 2 lands. And you mentioned how important it is in this format specifically because of the power level of cards increasing drastically as you're able to put more mana onto the battlefield.
Yeah, this is a format where I think it's exceptionally important to hit your at least first 5 land drops.
Jeremy Dasani, the winner of Pro Tour Theros in 2013. He has 13 GP top 8s, including a recent team top 4 with Shizuoka in 2017 and Rotterdam in 2016 with this same exact team. There's a Deathbloom Thallid for Burkhart, who's able to find land number 3. I see an Icy Manipulator in his hand, as well as the Eldest Reborn, waiting there for more mana.
This is one of those few situations where Icy Manipulator is not at its best. When you're missing land drops, the mana intensity of using that 1 mana every turn means that Icy Manipulator probably won't be able to come down until a much later stage of the game and will remain stranded in Corey's hand.
Do you play 18 lands in this format?
Sometimes. I think this format is open enough to interpretation where it can be correct to play as few as 15 and as many as 19.
Cloud Raider Sphinx in for 3. Corey will fall down to 17. See if he can find that 4th land.
He knows about Naru now, so that makes this attack very interesting.
seeing if I can get a peek at maybe some instant he's got in hand that could help deal with Naru. There she is on your screen, 3/3 flash. Other wizards you control get +1/+1, which is really the relevant ability on her.
But even though we don't really think of that middle text as doing much, the fact that Naru has flash and gives your other wizards +1/+1, it means that it's very common for the card to end up netting a decent amount of card advantage in addition to providing you with a lord that is a reasonable body by itself.
Skittering Surveyor here will find Corey his 4th land drop. It's a swamp. Surveyor been a great card we've been seeing all weekend. Fabulous at helping out in these team sealed decks, which often have 3-color mana bases.
What Corey did there leads one to believe that he probably has something that costs a single black mana in his hand. He cast the Skittering Surveyor pre-combat and searched up that swamp and then played it, as opposed to just attacking with the Deathspore Thallid first. This means that he wanted to have that one land and didn't want to potentially have to tap that mana and then not be able to play his Surveyor.
Jeremy Dasani has been able to see a lot of cards here at the end of Burkhart's turn. Blink of an eye sends the Knight of Malice back to Burkhart's hand, and then Op just scries to the bottom and draws a card. And here's a Skizik getting in. Cloud Reader Sphinx as well. Smash.
The corner has been turned.
All right, so 8 points coming at Burkhart. And we can see why he wanted that Knight of Malice out of the way.
And no good blocks here.
Asking for the number of cards in hand there, Dasani. Once again, all players on the right of the screen have a win in their column. So team on the left really has some work to do here, fighting back. Burkhart down to 9, finds another land. So he will have access to 5 mana. I believe he's looking at the Goblin Barrage right now.
I believe he also has the Eldest Reborn in hand right now.
That wouldn't be bad either right here.
Not at all. And I think that Jeremy, in many ways, would want to sacrifice the Skizik, considering Corey has no flyers. And that would mean that Corey has a really nice target for that Goblin Barrage in the following turn.
Ooh, is that a Karakov in hand too? All right, here we go. Eldest Reborn is the choice Burkhart makes. So Dasani here has to sack a creature. Chapter 1. Chapter 1. And it is going to be Skizik. As you said, Chapter 2, each opponent discards a card. Once 3 comes around, Corey gets to put a creature or planeswalker from a graveyard, any graveyard, onto the battlefield under his control. All right, Burkhart still stepping on the gas. All creatures get in for 5. Dasani will fall to 11.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be blocking that Cloud Rooter Sphinx. Might as well send him into the red zone.
Four cards in hand for Dasani. Sphinx gets in for another 3. Corey's down to 6. Ooh, Zahid Jinn of the Lamp here for Jeremy. Giant flyer. All right, Chapter 2 here, discard for Dasani. 5/6 in the air. Not a lot that can tango with that, but we do know that Burkhart has an Icy Manipulator.
And he may actually be forced to use this Icy Manipulator right now. But it does leave him still in a very precarious situation. He knows that Jeremy Dasani is playing this red-blue deck, and it would leave him dead to a lot of different cards, including something like Wizard's Lightning.
Okay, we do have a result from Table A. Martin Yuza was able to 2-0 Saito. So Corey, if he wins this, wins the match for his team. Shuhei, if Shuhei wins the match for the team. So real pressure on Dasani's team here. He's got to win this game to keep them alive.
Now, Corey, essentially both of these attackers put him into lethal range with any sort of evasion.
All right, here we go. Corey's creatures swinging on in. Dasani's life total 11.
Has the Goblin Barrage in hand. Unfortunately for him, even if he were to kick it, it would only be enough to leave Jeremy Dasani at 2 life if Jeremy Dasani chooses not to block at all here. If he does get Jeremy Dasani to block the Deathspore Thallid in this spot, then he'll be able to use that Goblin Barrage to finish off Zahid.
All right, so Dasani here, suspicious of the attack, of course. Burkhart being at 6. The grip full of cards yet, as he was a little hampered on mana early on in the game. So Dasani's going to take 4. Skittering Surveyor down after that Zahid block, and there's the Icy Manipulator. Go. Jeremy down to 7.
And Corey set up a nice thing here. If Jeremy does not have a way to end the game on this turn, Corey can tap down that Zahid. Then on his turn, he can tap down Jeremy's other blocker. Then even if Jeremy plays another creature, Corey can then attack with both of his creatures, put Jeremy Dasani down to 3, and then he'll have the Goblin Barrage to have dealt the additional 4 damage while dealing with that additional blocker that Jeremy might play. So, really interesting situation. Well played by Corey. Really worked this one out well.
Chapter 3 will be triggering on Corey's next turn as well, so he'll be able to get something back from any graveyard.
And that Skizit coming back is a major danger.
Oh, yeah. I really want a card name in Magic now called Major Danger. Like some kind of, commander or leader of a battalion. All right, we're going to tap down Zahid here with Icy Manipulator. A mountain there for Dasani. That's all he's got. Passes the turn back to Corey. And there was a Demon Lord. Belzenlock was the draw. Here's Chapter 3. It's going to be Skizik. Nice.
Very nice.
Okay. See if he goes for it here. Two ways to deal with that Sphinx. Man, I love Corey's deck. The Rakdos in me is pleased.
Jeremy does have a lot of open mana, and he is playing colors that play many different instants, so. Corey, not in a slam dunk situation where he knows that he can win on this turn. The Goblin Barrage does help quite a bit, though. The fact that he'll be able to use that to deal 4 damage to Jeremy Dasani by kicking it.
Yeah, sometimes easy to forget that you can sacrifice an artifact or a goblin here on Goblin Barrage.
Yeah, they didn't name it Goblin or Artifact Barrage.
No. Icy Manipulator taps down the Cloud Reader Sphinx, and that is all she wrote. Yuza, Nakamura, and Burkhart victorious here in round 11. Grand Prix Washington, D.C. advanced to 9-1-1. So Saito, Levy, and Dasani taking a loss there, falling to 9-2. Still in contention, though, for our top 4 coming up later today. really pumped for that.
I'm excited to see what kind of powerhouse teams end up there.
Team draft. You excited?
Oh, yeah.
I love
Very
watching
much so.
team drafts. We don't get to watch team drafts a lot. So this is kind of a cool situation to see. And especially with Dominaria. We've never seen a Dominaria team draft.
And it's kind of like old team draft formats. Like when you
Yeah,
go back
yeah.
and you go back and you play sets like Time Spiral, sets like the original Ravnica, they play very similarly to this limited format. And those were kind of the golden age of team drafting. Maybe a little after the golden age, but still.
All right, let's head down to the feature match area. We've got an interview all queued up. Corey Burkhart, hi, how are you?
Doing fantastic. Yourself?
Maria and JBL here in the booth. We're doing great. That was some cool stuff. How are you feeling about your deck? You've got some really powerful cards in it. We didn't really get to see Demon Lord in play, but some other cool stuff that was going on.
Yeah, there are some really powerful rares in my deck. We split up the colors and basically had an argument of who wanted to play the busted removal spells, the busted go wide deck, and our really good tempo deck. And it was more a matter of, no, you play this, and our decks are all pretty great. We're pretty happy.
Awesome. So how did you determine you would be running the red-black?
Shuhei and I kept talking about who would play our white-blue deck, who would play our red-black deck, and at the end of the day, I told Shuhei, like, come on, all I want to do is play Grixis cards. Like, those are my colors. Let me stay with my boys.
This is who I am. Let me be who I am.
Exactly. So I got to play with all the mythic rares and rare flyers, the ton of removal spells, kill all of your opponent's creatures, and hope you can get the job done at the end of the day.
Awesome.
Now, there was a particular turn in that game 3 where you chose not to attack with some creatures. Was the threat of Naru what you were thinking about, or are there just too many cards that could possibly come out of blue-red there?
So it was a combination of seeing Naru in game 1, but given that Jeremy had passed with 5 mana open after scrying 2 cards to the top, and not casting Naru on turn 4, I knew his hand could not have Naru, but I figured what was trying to happen there is he's trying to turn the corner with some sort of instant. My hope wasn't the exact scenario that played out, that was blink of an eye your knight into play Skizix. Part of what I was trying to do was leave back creatures for Skizix. I think what would have been a better play to prevent that was possibly just attacking with the Saphirlink token. But at the end of the day, thankfully it worked out. We peeled the 5th land and turned on the rest of our hand, which had a Goblin Barrage to hopefully close up the game.
Yeah, now on the very last turn of that 3rd game, it was an interesting thing. You had Lethal on the board, but he had a ton of mana open. He's red-blue. It probably felt pretty good to know that you had that Goblin Barrage at the ready.
Yeah, that was what I was discussing with him, why the turn took so long. I was talking to Martin Yuza about it, and I was just like, so my initial impression here is go to combat. If he has another Trickster, then we can tap the Trickster down, attack, get him down to 4, and then Goblin Barrage to finish him off. But that exact Trickster, I think, was the only card that could stop us. Every other thing was like, okay, if he has Naru here, if he has Blink of an Eye, if he's got Shivan Fire, I think we can get through all those. But the Trickster was like, okay, how do we actually beat this scenario? Do we just lose the game? What do you want to try to do here? And as soon as I went to combat and Jeremy was just sort of like this disheartened sigh, sure, I was like, okay, I think we've got this. The Goblin Barrage locks it up just in case. And
All right, so we're getting ahead of the Pro Tour here just a week out. Don't have to give me too much information, but how are you feeling with that looming in the distance?
Ups and downs. It's always a bit nerve-wracking right before a big Pro Tour. I know not just for our team, but for me specifically, I am currently gold, trying to get to platinum, coming off a top 16 at the last Pro Tour. And it's one of those, like, if I can put myself into a good situation, I could find myself platinum or almost a lock for world championships at the end of the weekend. So it's one of those, okay, play as much as I can with every deck and then make sure at the end of the day I've got the best sideboard plans that I possibly can with whatever deck I choose.
Awesome. Well, best of luck to your team the rest of today. Here, your deck is sweet. Hopefully you can see some Demon Lords on the table. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you very much, Maria.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I imagine he's going to have some success in this limited format, too. He's a Grixis control guy,
Yeah.
and now he gets to have these long games where he's playing removal spells.
All right, more magic coming at you. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
The best thing about being in cosplay, I get to talk to so many more people this way. People actually approach me, and it's a good way to meet people because people come and they love taking their pictures with me. And also when I do things like, as Garrick, I have an axe, and when I go to play, I plunk my axe down on the table, which sometimes just gets people looking up and they're like, oh, hey. Actually, one of my favorite comments, I was dressed as a Maratandress, and someone came up to me and they thanked me for bringing a character to life for them, and that was awesome.
Bertholdi hanging out with JVL here in the MTG Red Zone as we head ever closer to our top 4 here at GPDC Team Limited. We've got a pretty good one coming up for our time walk match, the Peach Garden Oath. All right, let's head on down. Owen Turton, Wald, William Jensen, Reed Duke, all members of the top 25 players right now on the left side of your screen versus Andrew Mitchell, Mark Rankin, and Jacob Burns. Kicking things off here, Table C, Reed Duke versus Jacob Burns.
PGO is really just incredible what they've been able to do at team tournaments over the last few years.
Absolutely. Definitely a team to watch out for. As Owen usually says, who runs these streets? Well, they often do. Tetsuko here for Jacob Burns and an Academy Drake to follow things up. Only black mana so far for Reed Duke. Deathbloom Fell gets in for 3. Thallid Omnivore the follow-up.
Reed is known to know his way around some green and black cards.
Absolutely. Here we go. In comes the Academy Drake and Tetsuko, unblockable. Ooh, here's a nice one. Joyra, Weatherlight Captain for Jacob Burns. Draws you a card whenever you cast a historic spell.
And that's the kind of card that really demands a removal spell if you have one. If you allow your opponent to untap with that card, they're going to start generating so much card advantage that they can just run away with the game. So you either need to close the game very fast or get it off the table immediately.
All right, so the Omnivore getting in here for Reed Duke. No attack with the Thallid, though. A block. Sacrifice. Down goes Joyra. Omnivore lives. And we get a Saproling in the deal. That seems pretty good trade on Reed Duke's part.
Yeah, I'm very, very surprised by that.
Perhaps Jacob Burns didn't really have any action in hand for Joyra.
Yeah, he may have had no historic cards, really.
All right, Flame Fist Adept here. Targeting the Saproling.
If Reed has some way to kill that Adept with that trigger on the stack, then the Saproling will actually live.
Dark Bargain here for Duke. I think trying to find a green source. Nothing yet. Migration's going to go into the graveyard. Mono black so far. For Duke, currently ranked number 2 in the world. Ooh, is that a Phyrexian Scriptures in hand? Oh, there's a forest. Managed to find it. And boom, Phyrexian Scriptures in foil, no less. Thallid Omnivore is an artifact and gets a counter. Smashing in, we're going to see a block there from Jacob Burns as Chapter 2 means that thing's going to die anyway.
And Jacob Burns valuing 4 of his own life over 3 of Reed Duke's with a play there. Jacob Burns perhaps thinking that if he's able to make this game go longer, that his deck will be favored in the long game. Maybe he has a lot of very strong, expensive spells.
Goblin Barrage here, targeting the Omnivore. Means we're just going to see a clean sweep on Chapter 2. Clear up the board. Tetsuko and the Drake go down in Chapter 2. Phyrexian Scriptures, Saproling Migration here. We're going to be kicked. And a Memorial to Folly. That's a pretty good one for Reed Duke. Able to get back his Omnivore if he wants from the graveyard. Divination from Jacob Burns. Refilling the hand, finds a land and something else. Another Dark Bargain in hand for Reed Duke.
The Chapter 3 there on Phyrexian Scriptures, very relevant against these blue-red decks that are usually the home to get to Chroniclers.
Absolutely. Exiling Jacob Burns' graveyard. All right, Saproling beats here for Reed Duke, getting in for 4. Yavimaya Sapherd bringing along another Saproling. Back over to Burns. Sulfur Falls. Tapping 5. Cloud Reader Sphinx. Scry 2. Looks like we're Shipping both to the bottom here of the library for Burns over to Duke. Memorial to Folly. Sure enough, we're getting back that Omnivore. Untap. And there it is. And I think we're just going to swing in. Sphinx will block one. And over to Burns. No attack there with the Sap Herd.
Yeah, Reed recognized that Jacob, given an opportunity to block that one, would just block that one. And on the following turn, Reed can attack with that also and then guarantee that it's getting in with the 2 power because Jacob will almost assuredly have to block the Thallid Omnivore.
No play from Burns. Back over to Duke, and Spore Crown Thallid is a nice one, pumping up the entire team. They all swing in, and that will do it. Reed Duke quickly picking up a game here over Jacob Burns. William Huey Jensen on table B also up a game over Mark Rankin. Good start for the PGO.
Yeah, Reed only black mana there until very, very late in the game. Didn't find it until after he cast Dark Bargain. Still good enough.
All right, we're still in game 1 here at table A. Owen Turton Wald versus Andrew Mitchell. Black-white mirror. Forebear's Blade for Owen on a Knight token, a Pegasus Courser, and another Knight. Ooh, a History of Benalia in the graveyard for Turton Wald is how we got those Knights. A Benalish Marshal on Mitchell's side of the battlefield there, pumping up all of his team. Pegasus Courser, a couple of Knights, and an Aven Sentry. Knight of Malice here for Owen. Life totals 13 to 10. Back over to Andrew. Both of these teams on 8 and 2, so they cannot lose if they want to be in contention for top 4. On Sarah's Wings for Mitchell. That's a good one, especially when you're on 5 life.
Yeah, and that can change things up quite a bit very fast. Alongside that Benalish Marshal now, that's going to be a 5-power lifelinker in the air.
All right, Pegasus Courser sends the Marshal to the skies. Aven Sentry getting in there as well. Swinging life totals.
Yeah, now Andrew jumping all the way up to 10 while putting Owen down to 8. In a racing situation, this is quite dangerous.
We're going to crack our Memorial to Glory here for Turton Wald, make some soldiers. This is a big momentum and morale shift if Andrew is able to win this game, because when you're down every single game 1, it does not feel great.
You know that it's going to be pretty hard to win the match over the course of all 3. Owen, though, not in the best situation.
He's got a Blessed Light in hand, I think. So that can deal with the Aven Sentry, but we still got that Pegasus Courser problem.
Yeah, Forebear's Blade, a very powerful card, but
all right, we're going to attack in with this Knight wearing the Forebear's Blade, which automatically transfers to another creature if the Knight should die. All right, we're going to see a double block here from Andrew. Knight goes down, Blade attaches onto the Pegasus Courser, which is exactly what Owen wanted.
yeah, the Forebear's Blade is able to be equipped at no cost when the creature that is wearing it dies. My favorite interaction with that in the set is Thallid Omnivore.
Oh, yeah.
It allows you to move the blade at instant speed mid-combat.
All right, here we go. Aven Sentry attacking in, Benalish Marshal and Pegasus Courser sending it to the sky, but we know Owen has a Blessed Light. Down goes the Aven Sentry, down goes on Sarah's Wings, and the Courser will trade for the Benalish Marshal. So Owen Turton, with pretty good turn for him, but he's still at 1 life.
You know, when it comes to these racing situations, lifelink can be exceptionally important, and Andrew was able to swing things back in his favor with those wings, and now with the Macy. Unicorn there.
All right, Turton Wald here attacking with the Knight of Malice and a Knight token, a trade there. And throws a turn over to Mitchell, who could win here with just an attack with the Courser, but they're both going to attack, and Andrew Mitchell saves his team from the Game 1 clean sweep, picking up a game here over Owen Turnwald.
Interesting to see the types of decks that people really are building in these team sealed events. It seems like there's usually a red-blue deck, usually some type of green-black or green XX deck.
Yep.
And usually some flavor of an aggressive white strategy.
All right, let's head back to Table C. Reed Duke, Jacob Burns, Game 2. Tetsuko in play with a Vidalian Arcanist for Jacob Burns. Salad Omnivore, and a nice one for Reed here, Territorial Allosaurus. Just a 5/5 for 4.
Yeah, that card is just completely reasonable. Been really impressed with it. I think one of the reasons that it's so good too is because of how many 4/4s for 4 there are in the set that are very good and very playable.
Bailiff Gorger.
It's a good example.
Rampaging Cyclops.
Mm-hmm. Those were the two I was thinking of.
I'm like starting to think if there's a third one.
Those are both like things that basically always make the deck when they're on color, though.
Attack here from Duke. Tetsuko in front of the Omnivore. The Arcanist in front of the Allosaurus. I think we're going to see an instant here. And in fact, we are a kicked Shivan Fire. And I do know that Reed has a Vicious Offering in hand. So that is going to stop those plans. Wow, and we have just cleared up Jacob Burns' board. Spore Crown Thal for Reed Duke. What a blowout.
It looks like Reed's just going to run away with this one. Dinosaurs. They do that.
Stomp away. Yeah, that was kind of a little bit dangerous there for Burns. If Reed had something like a Vicious Offering. All right, one of our 4/4s for 4 Rampaging Cyclops here for Jacob.
And with Jacob tapped out here, some interesting stuff happening for Reed.
So it's our time walk match as we gear up for round 12. This is previously recorded in round 11. All right, swinging in with the team for Reed Duke. Omnivore and the Cyclops will trade. And Jazu Vess for Reed Duke. Jacob Burns down to 1 life. I think we're about to see the first victory here for Team Peach Garden Oath.
Doesn't seem like Jacob could do much.
And in fact, all he can do is scoop him up and offer the handshake. Reed Duke taking that one over Jacob Burns here in round 11. The first W for Team PGO. Let's check in on Table B. Chance to watch Huey Jensen versus Mark Rankin. Huey currently up a game. Looks like Rankin has the green-black deck in this equation, and Huey's been given red-blue. Demon Lord Belzenlock on the table for Mark. Some other smaller creatures and a Cloud Reader Sphinx for Huey. An Arcanist, a couple Blink of the Eyes in the graveyard. Looks like life totals are all tied up at 7 apiece.
It can be really hard when you're not playing white or black to face off a card like Demon Lord Belzenlock. Just a 6/6 flying trample is so big, and it's evasive, and basically none of your removal spells kill it unless you combine them with each other or with some amount of power and toughness attacking and or blocking.
All right, it looks like we're going to see the first eruption here from Huey, which I haven't yet to see so far this weekend.
And I mean, this is a nice sideboard card, especially against black-green decks. Your opponents will usually have more X1s on the battlefield, especially when they're playing a lot of Saproling production.
The first chapter on First Eruption, of course, 1 damage to each creature without flying. Takes down Saplings handily. Chapter 2, you get to add a couple red. Chapter 3, you can sacrifice a mountain, and if you do, it deals 3 damage to each creature. Right, so we're going to get in for 6 here. Drop Huey down to 1. Cloud Reader Sphinx blocks the Deathbloom Thallid. Steel Leaf Champion and a Mammoth Spider here for Mark. 2 big beefers to follow things up.
Not really sure what Huey could do.
Yeah, there's just too much going on the other side of the table there that he needs to deal with sitting at 1 life. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Chapter 3, you must sacrifice a mountain.
Mark's deck, with all the hits, I believe Eldest Reborn still in hand for him.
Reed Duke offering some advice here to Huey. We've got a Shivan Fire. We'll take care of the Steel Leaf Champion. At the end of the turn, draws a mountain. We do have a Blink of an Eye in hand for Jensen. At least a land. I think maybe 2.
That will have been Jensen's 3rd Blink of an Eye this game.
Wow.
If Magic was a staring contest, he would have already lost.
Nice. I love Blink of an Eye. It's one of my favorite cards in the set. And here we're going to cast it just for 2 to send the Demon Lord back to Mark's hand. We already had 2 in our mana pool from the first eruption. But all Jensen was able to do is draw a land. Oldest Reborn here for Mark. Arcanist will go down, swings in, and yeah, that will do it. Mark Rankin able to take game number 2 here from Huey. All right, so things not looking quite as dire as they did near the start of this match for Team Mitchell, Rankin, and Burns.
Not at all. Again, we could be finding ourselves in a match where everything comes down to the final game.
All right, well, people are just scooping things up here on table A. Oh, and in fact, that was it. We came in just as it ended. Owen Turton 2 games to 1 over Andrew Mitchell. Peach Garden Oath advancing to 10-2 here at Grand Prix DC. So they are still alive and in it. Cool stuff there, JVL. As you mentioned, really interesting to see how the teams have been building their decks across the day. And I think you're right. I think we're usually seeing a blue-red Wizards deck of some stripe, green-black, X in some cases, splashing for other powerful cards, as green is the most likely color you're able to splash with, and a white aggressive deck. And that's exactly what we saw here at these tables.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of these archetypes kind of get hammered out, where in the beginning of the weekend, I think a lot of us just thought everything was a different shade of mid-range. Some of the decks are getting more aggressive. Some of the decks are getting more controlling. It's interesting to watch.
All right, well, we've got more Magic for you. Don't go anywhere.